My name is Jeff Barnes with the City of Scottsdale's Planning Department, presenting the Mercado Village Development Plan to you. For context, this site is located in the yellow highlighted boundary there, south of Shea, along the east side of 92nd Street. Getting a little closer view in there, you can see this site boundary involves an existing office building that has been vacant for some time. There's also a vacant parcel to the east that is incorporated into that site. Some of the surrounding context for you, there is a commercial shopping center commonly known for its Sprouts and Chompies to the north. There is medical office condos to the south. The Honor Health Shea campus begins on the west side of 92nd Street and extends beyond this aerial photo. And then there is another commercial development to the east, northeast, and the CVS Health campus to the east of that. The site includes current zoning of PUD on a portion of the site. That was done in a 2013 zoning action. That vacant portion of the site to the east is currently zoned CO, all of it with the PCD overlay that exists out there from the McCormick Ranch PCD. The proposed zoning change is taking that existing PUD portion, combining it in with a change from the CO to PUD to establish the whole site as PUD PCD with a development plan that reflects the current proposal on the site. As part of this, there is an associated minor general plan amendment. As that 2013 zoning action changed part of the site to PUD, it also changed that portion of the site to mixed-use neighborhoods, leaving the other portion as commercial, and so that GP case would be looking to bring the entirety of the site into the mixed-use neighborhoods designation to align with the PUD zoning. And just for general context, this is located in the Shea Character Area Plan in the location identified here. So getting into your task for today, the PUD zoning request comes with a development plan, and that development plan action tasks the Development Review Board with making a recommendation to the City Council as this then moves forward to Planning Commission and City Council for action on both the zoning request and the minor general plan amendment. So you're seeing this earlier than you normally would, and certainly if this goes through the zoning process, it would be returning to the Development Review Board for what would be the normal scope of review in the building design, site layout, the more refined details at that time. Part of what is laid out for the scope of review of the Development Review Board is considering these elements of the development plan, which include that the design within the development plan is compatible with development in the area, that the design is environmentally responsive, incorporates green building principles, contributes to the city's design guidelines and design objectives, and that if there are deviations, they must be justified through compensating benefits. There are not deviations proposed with this particular application. The third on here is that the development plan doesn't significantly increase solar shading of adjacent land in comparison to what is currently allowed under the existing zoning. And that it promotes connectivity between adjacent and abutting parcels and provides open spaces visible from the public right-of-way and useful to the development. Showing you some of the details of the development plan, starting with the site plan. What is reflected here is a 3-story building that accounts for 255 residential units with 8 integrated live-work units and an integrated co-working space. Those live-work units and co-working space are found on the ground floor adjacent to that surface parking area at the sort of north end of the site in the shaded areas on this site plan. The building does wrap around and contain an integrated parking structure. That parking structure would serve most of the parking for the residential units, leaving those surface areas for the commercial components and for guest parking. Of additional note on this site plan, it accounts for cross-access ability through the site, connecting to the northeast corner, as well as connecting up to the north and the northwest corner of the site. Those 2 connections to the north, the northwest, those are existing connections that lead to various portions of that Chompy's Sprouts shopping center. The connection to the east is there intending the ability to have future cross-access to the development adjacent to the east, allowing circulation out to the proposed signalized intersection at 92nd Street over on the east side of the site, or west side of the site, excuse me. Additionally, to vehicular access, pedestrian cross-access is accounted for, creating that continuity called for in those development plan criteria. This slide shows the building elevations. I mentioned 3 stories. The proposal does include a rooftop amenity space above the 3rd story, above the parking garage component, essentially, that tops out at the 48 feet maximum building height allowed under the PUD. That is also the current allowed building height under the CO and PUD elements of the site. Those elevations are a little hard to see from the projection here, but jumping into some of the renderings provided by the applicant team, this is looking from 92nd Street at the southern entrance to the site. This one would be looking from 92nd Street from the northern entrance to the site, giving you a sense of the articulation to that building, those co-work and live-work spaces on what would be the north end over to the left side of your screen there. And then street level perspectives for those as well. The design proposal is to have that first portion of the building at the street at a 2-story height that then steps back away from the street to that 3rd story so that the entire massing is not at 92nd Street along the frontage. And then this last one is just looking from the east end of the site back towards the development. I mentioned the cross-access pedestrian and vehicular and the circulation around to the adjacent developments. This circulation plan included in the development plan attempts to convey that so that there is access to the adjacent commercial, to the public sidewalks across the signalized intersection and into the greenbelt area beyond as reflected here. There is fire department access accounted for circulating around the site. There is an existing public access easement on the adjacent property to the east. There had been, over the course of time, previous proposals on this site and the adjacent site that had lended themselves to creating 2 parallel fire access drives. The intent here is to create instead one singular shared drive there so that more open space can be maintained instead of 2 parallel fire lanes. On the subject of open space, coming into the open space plan here, the areas highlighted in the green there are intended to convey open space throughout the site. The PUD zoning calls for a minimum of 10% of the site as open space. This plan accounts for the ability to provide 29% of the site as open space. So definitely is conveying the sense of the criteria for the development plan of useful and functional open space visible to the public and usable to the community. Landscape plan conceptually conveyed here as part of that development plan with landscaping provided through the site. I mentioned that shared fire lane on the property to the east. That opens up the ability to have more involved landscaping in the open space along the eastern edge of this site. This just conveying that ground floor live work units, co-work space in a little more detail with those 3 elements on that north side of the building. And that concludes staff's overview and presentation of the development plan for you. The applicant team is here as well, and I'll turn it over to them unless you have any immediate questions.
May I ask?
Are there any immediate questions? Yes.
Yes, please. Hi, Mr. Barnes. Given the interest from the community on this particular agenda item, if you wouldn't mind clarifying what you said early on in your presentation about how this meeting here today is a little bit different in terms of the process, and that if it is approved, it will come back around to DRB. Can you kind of help articulate as to why that's the case for this one?
Councilwoman Littlefield, Commissioner Higgs, yes, I can definitely do that. So what would normally be the process for a zoning request would be a recommendation action through the Planning Commission, then on to City Council for their action, and ultimately then refining details of a project, design details, site layout, and coming to the Development Review Board once those are in place, so that the Development Review Board can focus on what it normally focuses on, which is those more refined details and building materials and configuration and all of that. What's unique here is because of the zoning request and the development plan required for that, you instead turn into a recommending body on the front end of this process, and this would then go still to Planning Commission for their recommendation in the City Council, but return back to the Development Review Board after that zoning action stage for the normal Development Review Board review process.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Any other questions for Mr. Barnes? Those remote, any questions? No? Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Next, have the applicant come forward.
Thank you, Councilwoman Littlefield, Commissioner Higgs, members of the Development Review Board. Kurt Jones with Tiffany and Bosco. We're at 2525 East Camelback Road in Phoenix. Here today representing the Caliber Group. With me today is Kyle Baricello from the Caliber team and his team, and also our architect, Mike Edwards from Davis. A lot of my slides today are similar to what Jeff just went through, so I'll try to keep my comments to a different angle. Again, we're asking for a recommendation today from the Development Review Board to send a positive recommendation on to the Planning Commission and City Council for our development plan. As Jeff explained, a majority of our site is already zoned PUD. It's already zoned for the mixture of uses that we're proposing. We're amending the development plan to add the 2 acres to our east, which is commercial office owned. This case has been through the process a couple times. This is the 3rd time through. The previous one had 4 stories, 262 units, had some different floor plans. It also included if I go back to this, this plan here, it also included previously the south end of the commercial center, which is located here as part of the mixture of uses. The process, this change is taking that out. Our mixture of uses are all confined to this current site plan. So what we've done is change the proposal to 3 stories. We do have a rooftop amenity that's above that, but that's in the middle of the building, and I'll show you that in a series of slides. We're at 255 units. We have 8 live-work units. We have a 5,000 square foot co-working space, and we basically removed that commercial component from the previous Chompy's commercial center. Jeff went through the site plan, but we have a stepped building from 92nd Street. It's 2 stories along 92nd Street, 3 stories remaining. The parking garage in the middle, it's wrapped. You won't be seeing the garage from any off-site public views. You'll have an amenity on top of that garage that's centrally located, and from street views, you probably won't see it from those angles based on the building angles. Jeff described our open space and our pedestrian connection and vehicle connection plan. What's important to consider is right now the trucks within the Chompy's and Sprouts Center do come down along the backside of the existing site plan and exit the south driveway, and they can only go north when they do that. There have been points in time where they do go north and then they do a U-turn on 92nd Street with a tractor trailer. What this does is allow those trucks to come now through the site to a signalized intersection and make that decision point to go south or north. We do create a signalized intersection that allows for pedestrians from our units to go to the west, to the Greenbelt, to the hospital campus, and there's several pedestrian connections to the commercial center directly north of us. Commissioner Higgs asked about the process. Typically when a PUD is coming in front of the Development Review Board, they're asking for amended development standards. Again, being our 3rd time through, working with stakeholders, we've amended this site plan down so it doesn't amend any development standards. I think we'll probably be the only PUD in the city that doesn't come in and ask for an amended standard to kind of fit a development in an awkward site. We have a great architectural team here that created a site plan that meets all the development standards of the PUD district. And so what you see here is basically we meet all the heights required, and a majority of our building doesn't even get into the 40-foot height, and we're allowed 48 feet. As Jeff showed, these are some of the perspectives. One of the approval bodies that's not of the city is the McCormick Ranch Property Owners Association. We went in front of them and have their approval. They asked for an enhanced design along 92nd Street. They asked for the step back in the building. We think it creates a really nice frontage. A majority of this building is sort of tucked back between the office project and the commercial center. So when built, a majority of this building won't be visible from 92nd Street. But this provides a nice frontage along 92nd Street, and I think Mike Edwards at our architecture team created a nice visual frontage along 92nd. This is just a view of the co-work and live-work spaces in the parking lot on the north side of the building. If you turn yourself around from this picture, you're looking at the south end of the shopping center. Just shows you the relationship, the parking, those units on the bottom floor will be accessible for offices, for live-work units, and the co-work space will be accessible from that parking area also. This shows you that, that amenity area in the top part of the building. Again, that amenity area is about 5,000 square feet. It's less than 3% of the building area, of roof area of the building. And again, its location is ideal from a visual standpoint. When you put yourself back on the ground, you most likely will not see that amenity area, and there's a pool up there. The question of why we're here, again, typically we're in a development unit plan. You're usually amending development standards. We're not amending any development standards. I have a series of slides that kind of outline how we meet the criteria that the Development Review Board is looking at. The first one is the development plan is compatible with the area. It directly affects, and the development plan provides a benefit to the city and the adjacent neighborhoods. Compatibility, these are just some of the architectural styles in the neighborhood. We don't have any pitched roofs. The neighborhood doesn't have any pitched roofs, so we're kind of creating, and forgive my architectural novice here, creating sort of more of a blocky stepped building design than a pitched roof building design. Our open space, as Jeff mentioned, we're required to have 10%. We're at about almost 30% open space. Every unit will look out into open space. There'll be a walkway around the entire perimeter for folks that live there, and there'll be open space connections to the surrounding properties. The other development criteria is that we're responsive to green building principles and design objectives, and that if there's any deviations, we have to justify them. Again, we're not deviating anything from the current PUD design guidelines or the development standards. And we feel we've created an attractive project that fits into this surrounding area. Next one is solar shading. This is not the greatest graphic, but basically it's you know, when you're asking for building heights and amended standards, which we're not, closer to property lines, will that, you know, create shade on adjacent properties? I think probably the worst one is up here in the top one, December in the morning. It's probably creating shade on the 92nd Street and a little bit of shade on the properties to our north. But there's no residential properties or any closer office buildings that we're projecting shade on with regards to our proposal. And then finally, I think the last one is promotes connectivity between adjacent and abutting parcels. This graphic you've seen now a few times, that we have several connections to adjacent properties. There's actually a really cool connection from our project through a breezeway within the Chompy Center that is a direct access point. They won't have to walk all the way around this wing to get back into the commercial center. There's also pedestrian connections to our east, to our south, and of course, the traffic signal will provide a safe access across 92nd Street to the Greenbelt and to the hospital campus and all the office buildings across the street. So with that, we're asking for the Development Review Board to send a positive recommendation on to the City Council. We feel we've met all the criteria that the ordinance requires of this use, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Passing out notes here. Are there any questions for this gentleman? Those online, are there any questions? Yes.
Kurt, as the newest member of the board, and only been on this board for 6 months, it took me a while. I've read through the entire submittal, and it's extensive. It didn't occur to me in the beginning that we were making a recommendation simply to move this to the next level. We're not approving any zoning or anything else. We're just moving it to the committee that does approve the zoning, being the Planning Commission and the Council. One of the things that was talked about is the new traffic signal at 92nd and was it Choya? What is the cross street? Cochise.
Yes.
And I noted a lot of people had written in, and one of the questions that seemed to pop up over and over again is who's putting the signal in and who's paying for the signal? I wonder if you could elaborate on that just a little bit.
Councilwoman and Board Member Pieser, that would be our entire responsibility. So we would be placing the traffic signal. We have a traffic study that went along with our zoning application, demonstrates the need for a traffic signal for safety movements in and out of the site. It would help our adjacent neighbors with their truck movement through the site, and any future traffic that comes from the east. It creates a safe point of access onto 92nd.
So you've performed a traffic study on the area?
Correct.
And when did you do that?
Well, we did it for our submittal. Our submittal was recent. It was in January. The traffic study, I believe, was late last year, but was conducted.
Okay. The other thing I hear is the amount of traffic that's going to be forced onto 92nd Street, and the number seemed a little high to me, but what did your study show as far as how much traffic it's going to generate, this project?
I don't have the specific numbers, Commissioner or Board Member Pieser. I believe, I do know that 92nd Street right now operates at about a 40% capacity.
Okay.
So the traffic numbers that we're putting out on the 92nd Street do not trip any negatives to the traffic signals, and actually increases access and the letter grade to our site by having it signalized.
No, I agree. There's probably been a need for a light at somewhere in that location for a long time. So, all right, that was the questions I had.
Thank you.
Questions or comments? Any from the air up here, phoning in? No? Okay, thank you very much. Now, I do have some comments from the audience that would like to speak. And so I'll call your names up. The first one is Val Tisch. And how many minutes are we giving these folks, Jeff? 3? 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am here to speak for my disapproval of the mixed use and multifamily for hundreds of apartments in this location. Although I'm appreciative of redevelopment in tired or underutilized areas of our city, I'm against the rezoning that negatively impacts community neighborhoods, increases density, or adds additional strain on city, community, or local services, and increases traffic in an already congested area with no allowance or ability to expand parking, streets, parks, and other amenities that current residents enjoy. One traffic light just is only going to increase the strain and backup along 92nd Street. 6.64 acres is a huge area in comparison to the current Sprout Center, almost 1/3 larger. Looking at the map and surrounding areas, those buildings will be a massive intrusion in the current area. My family has lived in this area for decades. We had a business in that center in the 80s and the 90s. We are very familiar with the neighborhood and community, and we're very concerned with the rezoning of land with the intention of urbanizing Scottsdale neighborhoods by making the population denser than what was originally intended, as well as making it more difficult for residents to move about and enjoy the local area. According to a quick search, the population of the Scottsdale Ranch neighborhood is approximately 5,879 people. By adding 255 units, the city's allowing at least a 4% increase of population if that's just one person per apartment, or up to 8% increase of population if there's 2 people per apartment. With 255 units comes at least 1 car or 1.5 cars or whatever, 2 cars, adding hundreds of cars to that neighborhood. It will also add, of course, many, many additional residents in the area. Let's see. All who need the access to the grocery stores, the hospital, the parks, the recreation, shopping, and other city services, including water, sewer, waste, trash, etc. According to the sustainability plan, Scottsdale City Council wants to reduce the heat island effect. They want to reduce water usage, reduce waste and trash by 90% by the year 2050, and they want to reduce the sewer usage. Currently, Scottsdale is paying residents to remove their precious grass, which actually keeps yards, areas, and neighborhoods cooler. A 3-story building, which can be built up to 48 feet high in some areas, and adding possibly 400+ residents will only increase water, waste, trash usage, and contribute to a continuing heat island effect, making our neighborhood hotter.
Ms. Tisch, could you wrap it up, please?
Pardon me?
Oh, it came back on. Never mind.
Is that 3 minutes? Oh,
I think it is.
is that 3 minutes?
I think it is.
Okay, can I just say my last paragraph here? I'm just urging this design and review board to not approve the change in zoning of this project. There is plenty of need for office and medical space, and even though the general plan was approved, which calls for denser living conditions in this area, it's inconceivable that the city planners would vote to continually change zoning, which would ultimately lead to higher usage of our natural resources, reduce optimal living conditions for current residents, increase crime, school, classroom size, crowd our stores, and reduce police services and add to more traffic and accidents. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Bob Lettieri.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak here. I'm here to ask the board not to approve the Mercado project. The reason I say this is that about 5 months ago, a group of Scottsdale citizens met with the developers of the Mercado Village project at the senior center on Via Linda. And they expressed very clearly, the majority of opinion was that they did not want this project. It would only add density and more traffic. They explained that it would add 1,000 more car trips a day in that corridor. That corridor is 92nd Street south of Shea. Most people who live in the area shop there. They go to restaurants there or retail outlets. It's not uncommon for somebody not to be able to find a parking spot there. They have to wait for somebody to leave before they come in. So 1,000 more trips has to add, it's common sense that it's going to add more traffic and more density. In addition, the citizens spoke very loudly that this would require a zoning amendment, which would open up the area for even more development, more traffic, and more density. They welcomed the developers to consider building smaller single-family units, like condos and townhouses. But we know that goes against the economics of a developer. Once they put an apartment house in, it's a continuous stream of revenue. Once they build a condo or a townhouse, it's one and done. But that's what the citizens of Scottsdale in that particular community wanted. They spoke very loud and clearly at that meeting. In addition, they followed up with lots of emails that don't seem to be recognized, at today's meeting. The volume of people that spoke out against it. The fact that they're fearful of a zoning change that will open up the area for even more development, more density. So I'm here to ask the board, do you weigh the concerns of the citizens who speak out against it or the economic interests of developers? The question is posed to you, and I hope you'll consider it on behalf of your citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please hold your applause, please. Thank you. Next, we have Peter Petronovic. Thank you.
Thank you, members of the board. I'm here to speak to you to ask you to please vote no on this particular request for several reasons. The first reason is it's the wrong place for apartments. It will cause congestion, traffic delays, and overcrowding in an area already overcrowded. Sprouts and Chompies are already crowded. In fact, if this is approved with the traffic, routing signals, etc., I probably wouldn't be going to Chompies and Sprouts anymore. It could be way too much hassle. Let the owner build what's already allowed. Nice offices, maybe medical offices, which you could use. My doctor had to move from Scottsdale to Phoenix a few years back because she couldn't find sufficient proper medical space to have an open new office in. So it's wrong place for apartments. Second reason is that it's an unjust enrichment to the developer through the rezoning. The rezoning is going to cause a windfall profit to him, basically through the higher property value, and that's a gift to the owner, the developer, in contravention of the Arizona Constitution. Doesn't quite seem right. Finally, not finally, but additionally, even if it were the right place for apartments and it's the great use and so on, these particular ones are not Scottsdale quality. I attended a meeting of the developer at a community meeting where they talked about what it's like and so on, and they bragged about how they're like a development in downtown Mesa that they did, which they compared it to, I suppose. I actually saw those in downtown Mesa, and they're pretty ugly. I don't think that we are looking for Mesa quality here in Scottsdale. I certainly wouldn't expect that. I expect better, even if we do have to have something like that. In addition, there is a problem no matter what they do here, because there is an adjacent parcel to the east owned by somebody else, which has very limited street access. Under Arizona law, you can do a private condemnation action to basically go across somebody else's private property for an easement to have street access. If I were representing them, I would be saying, put an action over here against this parcel to give me access over to 92nd Street, because that benefits my parcel over there. So whatever they do here has a big potential to be messed up by the other owner of that parcel who may want better street access than he currently has on the other side. So in summary, I'd really like to ask you to vote no on this, because it's simply wrong quality, wrong place at the wrong time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next, we have Denise McCure. McHugh? McCure?
Hello. Hello to the board. Thank you for the time to express my opinion. I've lived here over 12 years, and I drive all those streets and walk all the sidewalks. The traffic has increased so much that it hurt me when I saw ambulance that couldn't even get to the hospital, and their lights were on. I was thinking, if I was in the developer's shoes, possibly an alternative was to split that between commercial to the east, maybe like a rental unit or something where there wouldn't be the traffic constantly. Because like we said earlier, there could be like 1.5 cars for every 255 apartments. That could be like, 550 cars coming and going on a two-way street that cannot expand. Shea cannot expand. Via Linda cannot expand. We're only talking within 2 blocks of the north and south of that street where the light is going to be. I agree, we do need a light. But it's all going to be blocked. We're going to be walking faster than the car is going to move. And one, as an RN who has had to take emergency call and then to sit there in traffic and can't get there in time, or even to be 10 minutes late does make a difference in a true emergency. So I ask it either possibly make it part commercial zoned and part housing, so there's less numbers of houses, possibly the townhouse or a townhouse apartment. So there's less numbers of units of the apartments, and one side be strictly commercial. I thought a rental unit where people want to do long-term storage rental could be an idea. I don't know, I haven't thought about it that long, but that was just one of the things I see with more people coming and going and moving and et cetera. I just hate to see this become so congested and for our community. And wasn't it just 2 years ago we were all talking about conserving water? I have no grass, but all the water consumption, sewer, garbage, that's going to be posed upon as a result of this development, that's why I thought about bringing the numbers down. I thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much. Next is Rose Petronovic. Sorry.
I urge the Planning Commission and the council people to please vote against this. First of all, it's going to lead to horrible, insurmountable traffic, so please vote no. It will lead to deaths for people who can't get to the hospital, so please vote no. It will be, nurses and doctors I've talked to who work at the hospital do not want this because they won't be able to get to their jobs. So please vote no. It will hurt our police and our fire because there's too many people. The developers don't give a darn about that, so please vote no. It will hurt our water supply. Will cost our residents more money for water. So please vote no. APS, who already charges all of us 25% more than SRP, will be raising our prices due to too much electrical usage. So please vote no. It will create lots of crime. I personally have been beaten up and robbed at gunpoint twice in 2 different apartment buildings, and one of them had a live guard at the gate. So please vote no. And the developers, I'd like to get their addresses so that way we can build an apartment building right next to their house. Thank you very much for your time. Please vote no. The citizens, the residents here do not want this. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have Joel Broder.
I apologize, Councilwoman Littlefield, if I could just interrupt briefly. I would just like to remind members of the public, I don't mean to discourage anyone from commenting, but this board is limited to addressing design elements as it relates to development applications. By design elements, we mean things like color schemes, construction materials, architectural design elements. This board does not have the authority or the ability to address things such as land use, zoning, or traffic. So I'd just like you to keep that in mind as you make your comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Joel Broder.
Thank you. So I appreciate all of my neighbors' comments about this project. I am one of their neighbors. I'm also the person who rezoned the property originally in 2013. What I had in mind is an embarrassment compared to what they are proposing here for this site. I've watched this property like a hawk for the last more than 10 years. I know every incarnation that's been proposed on this project, include the 3-story office fertility clinic on the vacant land, including converting the existing office building to a hotel that looked like dog whatever, including my project, which was to convert the freestanding building to lofts. I have either been neutral or opposed to this project or what was proposed on this project originally since its inception, but I've been to all of the open houses as well. I've heard all of the concerns. I've looked at all of the plans through technical eyes. I've read the traffic study, all 350 pages of it. You ought to read the summary to see what it says about traffic and how it will help this area, the signalization, et cetera. But more importantly, with respect to the building, I was mostly concerned about it being a monolith. It is not a monolith as it was originally proposed. This has a setback starting with 2 stories at the street and then layering back. It has pulled back off of the commercial site. It's got parking, sufficient parking. It's got a wonderful setback of landscaping around it. It has pedestrian, pathways around it. It connects to the retail. And I originally was opposed to having it connect to the future Kaplan project because for all the same reasons you did, I was afraid of all the traffic and allowing the Kaplan project to proceed. But now that I see the connection there and I realized how fantastic this thing could be when it connects to 9400 Shea and people living there can walk to the restaurants at 9400 Shea and vice versa and walk to the Sprouts and walk to the new Italian restaurant. This is going to be something that Scottsdale can be proud of. And I think it meets all of the all of the development requirements necessary for approval. And that's really what you're here to contemplate today. It's not a land use question today. It's does this fit within the development standards? And I would say not only does it fit in the development standards, it's better than anything I've ever imagined or I've seen anybody else imagine for this project, and it's going to be a fantastic project for the city of Scottsdale. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And lastly, we have Matt Metz. It's good to see you, Matt.
Councilwoman Littlefield, Commissioner and board members, my name is Matt Metz. I live at 9978 East Bayview Drive in Scottsdale Ranch. I'm speaking to you today on behalf of Scottsdale Ranch Community Association. For those who may not know, Scottsdale Ranch is east of this property on the other side of 96th Street. That's about 4,000 units within Scottsdale Ranch, a mix of single-family and multi-family housing. The developer has worked with Scottsdale Ranch. We've seen many iterations of this project, and we appreciate their efforts. Some of the changes that have been made in this latest iteration reduce the number of units. They reduce the height and the mass of the building. They move some of the mass away from 92nd Street. And I'm acutely aware, and I thank the city attorney for reminding us that today we are talking about design and not use. If I was speaking about use, I'd have to speak loudly on behalf of many of our residents who are opposed to multifamily housing in this area. We might be tempted at this point to offer opposition, but we are not. Scottsdale Ranch's official position here is that we are withholding our opposition to this project contingent upon this very important connection to the property to the east, sometimes called 9400, sometimes called the Kaplan property, allowing access for that project to exit toward 92nd Street. That's important to the residents of Scottsdale Ranch and surrounding properties, because if that access were not granted, that property to the east would likely deposit much of their traffic south through that medical complex coming out to 96th Street and down to Mountain View. This concentrates and allows those people to come out on 92nd Street, a street arguably capable of handling that traffic and doesn't push traffic into residential neighborhoods. So Scottsdale Ranch official policy is we are withholding our opposition to this project contingent upon that connection that the developer has agreed to include over to the east property. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. And that is all of the cards that I have for people who wish to speak today. Do you have any others over there? No? Okay. Then we can continue on.
Yes, we can give the applicant an opportunity to speak to the public comment if you like.
I would like to do that very much.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Councilwoman. It's a radio station I listen to that the guy who runs the program basically says, I'd rather have clarity than convincing people of something that, you know, my opinion. I don't think anything I respond to any of these comments, I'm going to change their opinion. So I think the clarity is that we were respectfully asking the Development Review Board to move this forward. We've met all the design parameters that the ordinance for the PUD provides for. I am a resident of Scottsdale Ranch. I live in this area. I shop at Sprouts. I go through this entire area every day. There are some concerns, but the concerns that I've heard are not quite, pertinent to what we're doing with our project. We're creating a mixed-use project. When you create mixed use, you have to consider, I think, everything around us. You know, we are a mixed-use district that we're asking for, but the mixture of uses are what surrounds us. By providing the residents next to businesses and commercial uses, that's just sound planning. Typically in Scottsdale, you have multifamily projects trying to squeeze a project into an area that's maybe adjacent to single family. In Scottsdale Ranch, there's many multifamilies that are adjacent to single family. We're not doing that here. And so with that, we're asking the Development Review Board to just forward a positive recommendation that we meet all the city's ordinances requirements for design standards as outlined in the PUD section of the ordinance. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? No questions? No?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any additional comments from staff at this point?
Thank you, Councilman Littlefield. Just want to note before you begin your deliberations, Board Member Brand was not able to attend today, but he did express his support for the project in an email to myself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Are there comments or questions from the board? Yes.
I agree with forwarding this on to the, with our approval. I think it's a good project. I think it's going to add a lot of value, and I think it's met the design criteria.
Okay.
I will add on to that. Again, the purpose of DRB is for a design standpoint, and with that in mind, meets the design standards, compatibility with surrounding buildings. They've even enhanced the design and increased setbacks per requests from the community. They have the 29% open space as opposed to the 10% required. Meets green building standards. There's connectivity between adjacent properties. Those are the things that DRB looks at, and with that, I would support this moving forward.
So,
I would probably say that everybody who spoke today, especially the ones who spoke against the project, this probably isn't the board you want to come to at this time, and would probably say if this moves forward to the Planning Commission and the council, that is where you need to state your oppositions that you brought forward that are kind of outside of our purview. So, and recommend that you come back. And Chair, are you looking for a motion?
I am.
I would make a motion to approve and to move a recommendation to the Planning Commission and City Council for approval of the proposed development plan elements for Case 1 ZN 2024 after we've determined today that it meets the applicable design-related considerations.
I second that.
Okay, I would just like to add a few comments, and I will not be supporting this because I don't think it does meet the design requirements. It meets the legal requirements, but the design requirements should also be compatible to the citizens that live nearby. Now, I know they aren't the ones that have the money involved in this, but this project has come before us time and time again, each time a little bit different iteration. And every time the citizens come and ask to change the design to make it more compatible to what they want, I don't see that happening. Also, this is an older shopping center. I shop there all the time, okay? I like it very much. Sprouts is great, Chompy's is great, and I think it's used by a great number of people in Scottsdale. But I haven't seen the upgrades in the shopping center itself that would be compatible with a brand-new apartment complex. It's going to be a beautiful new apartment complex with an old kind of dilapidated shopping center behind it. I want to see what you're going to do with the shopping center to make them all one cohesive look, feel, touch, whatever. And that's where this board comes in. So we're supposed to make things compatible with each other that are adjacent to it. And I don't believe that this is. So I can't support it until I see some action on that front. You know, how about that old black thing that crosses the pathway going into the back acreage? You know, are we going to get rid of that? Are you going to upgrade it? Are you going to do something to make it look halfway decent rather than having, you know, people live in it and do other things? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's not been answered for my positive feedback. And I think it could be, but it needs to be done before I can vote yes on it. Thank you.
So we will take a roll call vote on the motion, please.
Councilwoman Littlefield?
No. Sorry, no.
Board Member Peaser?
Yes.
Board Member Mason?
Yes.
Commissioner Higgs?
Yes.
Motion passes 3-1. Thank you.